Hi, brothers and sisters. I'm coming back to tell y'all about some of my testimony. Recently, I lost my grandmother. She's only 63, and she was battling a lot of things with her health, and me and my grandmother was very, very close. She's the one that got me into church. As a kid, as a baby, she took me to church every Sunday, me and my sister. We went to churches on Wednesday, all the events we could get into, and we were very involved, and she was very involved, and she just loved everybody, and she always took the time to listen to other people, and she never really worried about her own needs, and she never spent money on herself. She was always just buying for other people. She just really had a good heart, and she loved God. And she'd had open heart surgery, I think in like 2006, and only 40% of her heart functioned. And so she had got a infection on her right leg, and then on her left leg, and she battled this for about 2 years because they had to cut the infection out and leave like a 5-inch wound in her leg. Like, they cut out a big old piece of meat, and it was very hard on her because she could not have any anesthesias, anything to help with the pain or sleeping, anything with the way her heart functioned. With only 40%, they couldn't sedate her. So anytime she had to have a surgery, she had to be awake for it, and she couldn't have pain medication. So it was hard on her. But she prayed, and she prayed, and she prayed, and she prayed, and she kept a smile on her face, and she kept such positive attitudes. And even the nurses always complimented, no matter how bad of pain she was in, and what she was going through. They always complimented how pleasant the conversations were with her, and how positive, and the smile never left her face, and she just really prayed, and she really trusted God. And the infections, we were not aware. They did not tell us until the day that she actually passed away. None of the doctors told us anything. That the pain, the infections were never actually going to heal, because she had developed emphysema, I think that's how you say it, after she'd had her open heart surgery. So her legs were physically not able to heal themselves, so she was going to have to live with those the rest of her life. Now, she never knew that. She believed they were going to be healed, and she prayed, and she trusted, and I did too. And we had a lot of people, we had prayer chains, and we really believed. And she'd been in and out of hospitals and living cares, and then back home. And about 2 days after getting back home, the last time after the last hurricane we had here in Texas, we thought, everything was fine and she was being healed and stuff. Well, I think it was like the second day, an in-home nurse was coming to check on her wounds and clean them and give her, and pack them with the stuff that they had to put in the wounds because of how deep they were. They had to put this stuff in it, and they realized that she was going septic, that the infection was going to her bloodstream. So they called an ambulance, and they got her to the hospital. The first day in the hospital, she was conscious, and she was talking with the nurses. Nurses complimented once more of how positive she was, and how great the conversations they were having with her. And that day, I think around the evening time, when the blood infection started to take more over, she had went unconscious. And so, with only 40% of her heart working, she was able to breathe on her own, but it was like, it wasn't enough. It was hard on her. And so they put a breathing tube down her throat to breathe for her. Well, even with the breathing tube, they had it set to where she didn't have to breathe on her own at all. But she would still, every minute when they would check the readings, it would show that she would do 2 or 3 breaths on her own. So she was fighting. She always fought. She never gave up. And she was unconscious at this time, but I know that she knew that we were there when we would come and visit her. And when I got there, the day that I got there at like 11 on, I think it was Thursday. I want to say it was Thursday. I'm not positive on that day, but I think it was Thursday. And I stayed from 11 until 7 o'clock when visiting hours were over and they asked us to go home. The entire time that we were there, me and my dad, we held her hand. We could tell that she knew, because when we held her hand, her blood pressure would literally go from like 36 over like 16, which is awful. And I have a picture on my phone. Whenever I held her hand, it skyrocketed to 115 over 90. Now that's a huge skyrocket if you remember the last numbers I just said. And so I knew that she knew we were there. And I sat there with her and I played her favorite Christian songs. I put it by her ear. And I called a good friend of mine, a really good friend of mine. He lives in a different state. He street preaches a lot. And he's really good with praying, and he has the gift of tongues. And I called him and I asked him to pray for us and to pray for her. And so we put him on speaker. And as he was praying, my grandmother's left foot would wiggle, so like you'd see it moving. So I knew that she knew that we were there, and I knew she was hearing the prayers and the songs. But when we left at 7 and went home, I came home and I was in bed and I couldn't really sleep. And I just tossed and turned and I prayed and I prayed. And I finally told God, I prayed, Lord, let your will be done. And I finally, at that point, I took it out of my own hands and I trusted God for whatever was going to happen. And at 2:45 that morning, I got a call from my dad on the way to the hospital. He told me that she hadn't made it, that she had passed away. And it really hurt. But at that time, I can honestly say with all my heart that God was there helping me through, because he gave me a peace that I have never felt in my life. He gave me calmness and a peace, and he allowed me to know that she was in a better place, and that the pain and the suffering that she had been going through was finally over, and that she was okay, and that she was with God, and that he had her, and that I didn't have to worry, just like she didn't have to worry about us. I knew that she was safe with God, and she knows that God has us taken care of down here, and I believe that, and he's given me a peace through it. And it's hard. It's really hard, because any time I had a bad day or I was stressed, something was going on, I would call her and she would talk and she would pray for me, and she would send me Bible verses, and she would, just tell me that I needed to trust God, and she would remind me of things that we learned in school, in Sunday school, and stuff that we had learned at church, and things we had talked about. And she always was really there to help me. And so it's hard, especially on a rough day, when I just wanted to call her, hear her, or give her a hug. It's hard, but through it all, I've learned that I have to trust God more. And I have to understand that although I don't understand his ways or the will that he has sometimes, that it is best. He has the best will, and he has what we need, and he knows what we need before we even need it. And he's already finding a way to provide it, and he's already working a way for it before we even ask and before we even need it. And it's just so amazing. And I just really feel like God was telling me to share this, because it was very hard on me. And I have right here, I keep on my bed, I keep with me this pillow that my grandma had since like the 70s. I mean, she had it for years. You can see where the colors have actually started to kind of fade on it. But as a kid, I remember when I'd go over there, just a little bitty kid, she whenever she'd lay down and she'd lay a proper head on that, and she had really long hair at the time. She had really long hair, and she would let me and my sister brush, and we'd brush her hair for her. And it's just little memories like that, just little things that you may not know that you remember that will be special to you, but they really are, and we would just talk. And she still had, whenever me and my sister was in cubbies, like in like 3, 4, like maybe 5 years old, maybe, or a little bitty, when we were going through our closet, she still had me and my sister's cubbies vest with all our little patches on it. She had our cubby books from Awanas, and she had all that stuff. She still had the little she has these little dinosaur bowls she got us that she would make us cereal, and me and my sister, we didn't like Cheerios, and so she'd cut up bananas and put it in the Cheerios, and it was this little dinosaur bowl. It had a straw attached to it, so after you were done eating your cereal, you could drink the milk. And she'd always put the bananas in so we'd eat it. And she still had those. She saved those. She would always tell me, she always said she was very finicky with me and my sister's stuff, She really loved her grandkids. I mean, she loved her whole family. And she just really loved us, and I really loved her. And it's just been rough. It's been hard, but like I said, God has really helped me and gave me a peace that I can't even begin to explain. It's just, He's so amazing, and I love Him in so many ways. And I just wanted to share a bit of my piece of my testimony with anybody that may be going through the same thing, or maybe worrying about somebody in the hospital. I just want to let you know, as hard as it is to hear and to understand, just put it in God's hands, and whatever happens, it's for His reasoning. He has a better reasoning. He has a better plan, and it may be hard, but trust on Him and lean on Him at the hardest part. Do not run. Do not try to find another way, because it will not work, and you'll end up right back to Him. But if you run, you're going to add a bunch more obstacles and heartaches in the way before you get back to Him, and before He can finally heal you, and it won't be worth it. I'm telling out of experience, because I've done it so many times, and I've regretted it every time. And now I've finally learned, after 21 years, I'm 21, I finally learned that just stay on the path and trust Him, because you make it 10 times worse when you don't. So I just want to say, God bless y'all. Thank y'all. Keep the faith, keep praying, trusting God, and just let His will be done. And whatever happens, know it's for the greater good. I thank y'all, brothers and sisters, and y'all have a wonderful day. God bless y'all.